Hello, everyone. Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. Today, we're diving into the intriguing world of The Assassin and the Underworld, the fourth story in the book, The Assassin's Blade, which shows us the events leading up to the famous Throne of Glass series. This is an illustrated summary, so remember it's not the full book. Get ready for an adventure full of action, betrayal, and tough decisions. Chapter 1. The vast and shadowy hall of the Assassin's Keep was silent as Celaena Sardothien crossed the marble floor, holding a letter in her hand. Upon arrival, only the housekeeper greeted her, but noting Selena's malicious smile, she chose to stay silent. As Selena made her way to Arobynn Hamel's study, she encountered Wesley, Arobynn's bodyguard, guarding the door. Though not an assassin, Selena knew Wesley was a formidable opponent. 3 months had passed since Arobynn had beaten her unconscious as punishment for ruining his deal with the pirate lord. Afterward, he sent her to the Red Desert to learn obedience and discipline. Now, with the letter from the mute master in hand, Selena was ready to prove that Arobynn hadn't broken her. She also carried 3 chests full of gold, enough to pay off her debt to him and free herself from his control. Wesley tried to stop her, warning that Arobynn was busy, but Selena ignored him and entered the study. Arobynn, sitting behind his desk, barely looked up when she tossed the letter onto the table. Without a word, he continued reading his documents, making it clear that Selena had to wait until he was ready. Time passed slowly as Arobynn reviewed his papers, until he finally decided to read the letter. Though Selena expected a confrontation, Arobynn surprised her by apologizing for what had happened. In an attempt at reconciliation, he offered her an emerald brooch as a gift, but Selena accepted it coldly. Despite his apologies and promises, she knew her feelings toward Arobynn were complicated and conflicted. However, Arobynn didn't stop there. He offered her a new job, to eliminate a man named Benzo Dunval, a businessman planning to establish a slave trade in Melisande. She was also to recover some crucial documents and possibly eliminate Donival's partner in Rifthold. Arobynn tempted her with the promise of a substantial reward, but Selena decided to take some time to consider the mission. After their meeting, exhaustion overwhelmed her as she climbed the stairs to her room. During her ascent, she encountered Sam Cortland, who appeared perfectly fine despite what had happened between them and Arobynn months ago. Though they exchanged a few words, the tension was palpable, especially when Lysandra, a young courtesan Selena despised, appeared. Lysandra's haughty attitude and close relationship with Arobynn and Sam fueled Selena's anger. Though she tried to remain calm, the encounter left her furious and humiliated. Upon reaching her room, Selena slammed the door, feeling like everything around her was falling apart as she wrestled with her conflicting emotions toward Arobynn, Sam, and Lysandra. Chapter 2. The next morning arrived with a fierce storm, and the roar of thunder woke Selena. A servant delivered a beautifully wrapped box, a gift from Arobynn. As she sipped her morning tea, she calmly opened the box, pretending disinterest. However, she couldn't hide her excitement upon discovering 2 golden hair combs shaped like fish fins, adorned with sapphires. She rushed to the vanity, placed the combs in her hair, and smiled at her reflection, enjoying the elegance it reflected. Despite her resentment toward Arobynn, the gift reminded her of what she had missed about civilization during the summer in the Red Desert, her clothes, jewelry, and all the luxuries of life in Rifthold. However, noticing how neglected her hair and nails were, she decided it was time for some pampering. At her favorite salon, she was greeted with enthusiasm but also horror at her disheveled state. She spent half the day restoring her elegant appearance, and when she emerged, the rain was still falling on the city. Returning to the keep, she encountered the Melisande convoy's procession. Though intrigued by the fame of its inventors and artisans, the rain ruined the display, and she decided to head back. Back at the keep, she accepted the mission to eliminate Dunval, recover the blackmail documents related to the slave trade, and eliminate Donival's partner, if necessary. The next morning, Arobynn summoned her to the training room, where a new suit awaited her. Made from a dark fabric, similar to leather but lighter and more durable, the suit was a gift from Arobynn. The suit not only offered protection but also concealed weapons in its seams, ready to be drawn with a simple movement. As the inventor adjusted the suit, Selena was impressed by its functionality and design. She knew that with this suit, her reputation as Adarlan's assassin would be more than secured. She also took the opportunity to ask the inventor if he could incorporate a small piece of spider silk into the suit, right over the heart, a nearly mythical and extremely rare material. The inventor agreed, acknowledging the immense protection it would offer. After leaving the training room, she encountered Sam in the hallway. Though Selena tried to keep her composure, the conversation quickly turned into an argument. Sam, frustrated, reproached her for being willing to forgive Arobynn after what he had done to her. Selena, for her part, accused him of getting too close to Lysandra during her absence. However, Sam surprised her by revealing that he had made Arobynn swear never to lay a hand on her again as a condition for forgiving him. Selena was stunned and overwhelmed by shame and guilt, unable to find the words to express her gratitude. Sam, for his part, gave her no more time to react and walked away. Later, Arobynn visited her and informed her that Dunval would attend the theater that night. With 4 days until the meeting, it would be a perfect opportunity to spy on him from Arobynn's private box. Selena accepted the invitation, but upon entering the carriage, she discovered that Sam and Lysandra were also coming. The situation deeply unsettled her, especially noticing the tension in Sam, as if he feared she would verbally attack him. Lysandra, on the other hand, appeared completely indifferent and pleased with the situation. Chapter 3. When they arrived at Arobynn's private box, 2 employees took their soaked cloaks and offered them glasses of sparkling wine. Arobynn, Sam, and Lysandra stayed in the antechamber, conversing with one of Arobynn's acquaintances, while Selena, uninterested in joining, went directly to her favorite seat, the one closest to the stage. From her position, Selena had a perfect view of the stage and the orchestra pit, though her gaze also drifted to the empty royal boxes in the center, feeling a mix of envy and disapproval at the waste of such precious spots. As she observed the hall, the murmur of the crowd and the sparkle of jewels, she felt that this was the only place where she truly felt at home. Shortly after, Arobynn approached from behind and whispered that Dunval was directly across from them, in the 3rd box from the stage. Selena quickly located him, a middle-aged man, blonde and of average appearance, dressed in an expensive violet tunic. Beside him, a tall, elegant woman drew attention. Arobynn identified the woman as Lafer Bardingale, Donival's ex-wife and the person who had commissioned his death. Arobynn explained that although Bardingale appeared to be a refined lady, she was a woman of great determination, committed to the cause against slavery. Lysandra and Sam entered the box and sat behind them. Selena felt Sam's presence behind her, making her nervous. She knew she should say something, apologize, or thank him, but the words wouldn't come. Finally, she decided to compliment his appearance, though the compliment came out more forced than she would have liked. Sam, surprised, responded with a smile, commenting that she also looked beautiful, something that, according to him, she must already know. The play began, and as soon as the music filled the hall, Selena was completely absorbed. The story of the prince and the cunning bird was beautiful, but what really moved her was the music. Every note enveloped her, breaking her down and rebuilding her with overwhelming intensity. As the climax approached, the emotion overcame her and she broke into tears, clapping fervently until her hands hurt, not caring what others thought. When the show ended, Selena realized that Dunval and the others had already left. Arobynn, Sam, and Lysandra had also left the box, but Selena stayed a little longer, gazing at the empty stage and trying to calm the emotions that flooded her. Back at the keep, Arobynn invited her to a party in honor of Lysandra, but Selena declined the offer, claiming she was tired. However, instead of going to bed, she headed to a music room where she tried to reproduce the melody that had moved her so deeply in the theater. Though she tried, the pianoforte couldn't capture the grandeur of the orchestra. Frustrated, she closed the lid and left the room, only to encounter Sam in the hallway. Sam, who had been listening, commented that it must be maddening not being able to reproduce the music as she remembered it. During their conversation, Sam revealed that, like her, he had suffered Arobynn's punishment, but his punishment had been having to witness her being beaten. In the end, as they headed to their rooms, Selena impulsively asked Sam to help her with the mission to eliminate Dunval, offering him half the payment. Sam accepted, clarifying that he wasn't doing it for the money but for the opportunity to ruin another slave transaction. As they said goodnight, Sam confessed that he had missed her during the summer, to which Selena finally admitted that she had missed him too, though she couldn't resist the temptation to do so with her characteristic sarcasm. Chapter 4. Crouched in the shadow of a gargoyle the following afternoon, Selena tried to reposition her numb legs. She was on a rooftop, watching the two-story mansion that Dunval had rented. The mansion, built of white stone with a green-tiled roof, was similar to other wealthy homes in the city. Despite the rain, the front garden was well-maintained, and servants came and went constantly. But what caught Selena's attention the most was the number of guards present, patrolling every corner of the property. Sam silently appeared beside her, informing her that there were guards at every corner, at the main door, and at the fence. Selena, who had been observing the mansion for 6 hours, explained that she preferred not to kill the guards if possible, though she acknowledged that infiltration would be tricky. Dunval had left an hour earlier, and now, as they talked, Donival's carriage returned. His bodyguard, a huge man with a stony appearance, conducted a thorough inspection before allowing Dunval to get out of the carriage and enter the house. The security around Dunval was extraordinary, indicating how valuable the list of slave sympathizers in his possession was. As the day progressed and the sun began to set behind the dense clouds, the bodyguard left the house, probably sent on an errand. They decided to follow him, carefully descending from the rooftop and moving through the streets and alleys of Rifthold. The street festival in honor of the harvest moon was in full swing, but Selena and Sam focused on their target. The bodyguard stopped at a tavern in the slums, where he drank several beers. While they waited outside, Sam reflected on Bardingale's mission and her interest in the road that would connect Melisande with Adarlan, which intrigued Selena. Finally, when the bodyguard returned to the house, Selena and Sam did the same. Although they had gathered some information, Selena felt frustrated and exhausted. They needed to discover the exact time of Donival's meeting with his partner, but so far, they hadn't obtained enough clues. After returning to the keep, she took a long hot bath, trying to shake off the cold that had seeped into her bones during hours of surveillance. Upon leaving the bath, she found a package of sheet music on her bed. The note accompanying the sheet music, hastily written by Sam, indicated that he had obtained the sheet music from the show that had moved her the previous night. Selena couldn't help but smile as she saw them, impressed by the effort Sam had made to get them. That night, Selena attended the Harvest Moon party at Lafer Bardingale's house. The mansion, located by the river, was filled with Rifthold's elite. Wearing a gold and blue dress and the fish fin combs in her hair, Selena made her way through the crowd. The hall was decorated with rows of lanterns, garlands, and tables laden with food. Several young women dressed only in corsets and lingerie swung on swings suspended from the ceiling, while bare-chested men served wine. The opulence of the party surpassed any event Selena had attended. Sam and Selena joined Arobynn, who introduced them to Bardingale as his niece, Diana, and his charge, Sam. Though Bardingale knew the truth, she accepted the greeting with courtesy. After exchanging a few words, Arobynn left with Bardingale, leaving them alone to observe Dunval, who was in a private section surrounded by courtesans and closely watched by his bodyguard. Although Dunval's meeting with his partner was scheduled for 3 nights later, Selena decided to take the opportunity to get close to him. Ignoring Sam's concern, she made her way through the crowd to the section where Dunval was enjoying the company of the girls. Chapter 5. Selena confidently approached Dunval, keeping her eyes fixed on him. Though the 4 courtesans surrounding him noticed her, she paid them no mind, focusing only on her target. Dunval lifted his head from one of the girls' necks and looked at her brazenly, eyeing her up and down. His bodyguard tensed but didn't intervene. With a forced smile, Selena moved closer, making an elegant bow. With a seductive voice, she greeted him as "my lord," though he wasn't one in the strict sense. Dunval, flattered by the title, returned the greeting, asking how he could assist her while his eyes continued to roam over her figure. Selena, aware of her allure, lowered her head as if she were a shy young girl, hinting that her uncle, a merchant, spoke highly of him and that despite his illness, she had decided to present herself in his place. Dunval, fascinated by her apparent innocence, asked her to continue speaking. She apologized for the interruption and pretended to be uncomfortable noticing Dunval's female company, which made him remove his hand from the thigh of the courtesan beside him. The other girls looked at her disdainfully, but Selena maintained her impeccable performance, pretending to be a shy and modest maiden. With a trembling voice, she explained that her uncle couldn't meet with him in the coming days, suggesting that they might meet in 3 days for tea, just before his dinner engagement. Dunval, suspecting nothing, agreed with a smile, setting the meeting time for 7:30 in the evening. Selena, pleased, bid him farewell with a bright smile, allowing his gaze to linger on her cleavage one last time before she left. Far from Dunval, Selena sighed with relief, knowing she had achieved what she needed. She approached the buffet table, filling a plate with roasted boar and other delicacies, when she noticed Leifer Bardingale watching her. The hostess observed her with a mix of sadness and pity, which made Selena uncomfortable. Leifer briefly approached the table before disappearing into the crowd, leaving Selena wondering what feelings the woman harbored for having hired her to assassinate her ex-husband. Sam appeared at that moment, asking if she had obtained the information she needed. Selena, with a triumphant smile, confirmed that Dunval would be busy at 7:30, indicating that the transaction would be at that time. Though Sam seemed satisfied, his expression darkened as he saw Dunval surrounded by the courtesans, a reminder of his own history with them. Determined to enjoy the party, Selena announced that she wanted to dance. She immersed herself in the crowd, letting the music envelop her. As the night progressed, the party became more wild, with the young people of Melisande giving in to the frenzy of the music and dance. Selena joined them, drinking from bottles passed hand to hand, enjoying the freedom the night offered. Around 3 in the morning, she noticed a group of masked youths entering the hall. The leader of the group, a man with dark hair and sapphire eyes, caught her attention. Their eyes met, and as if he had been watching her all along, he approached her. However, before she could interact further with the stranger, Sam appeared between them, pushing the man's hand away from Selena's waist and stating that she was accompanied. Though the masked young man withdrew, winking at Selena, the tension between Sam and her intensified. Annoyed by Sam's intervention, Selena confronted him, but he, with concern in his voice, pointed out that she was drunk and that the man knew it. Though Selena insisted she didn't need to be escorted home, Sam remained firm in his concern for her. In a moment of sincerity, Sam confessed that he cared about what she thought of him and that he had endured the party only to be by her side. This confession disarmed Selena, who, despite her initial anger, admitted that she didn't know how to be his friend. They decided to leave the discussion for the next morning, hoping to resolve their differences. Sam said goodnight, leaving her on the dance floor, where she tried to recapture the joy of the night. After the party, Selena headed to her new apartment, located in a hidden warehouse. From the rooftop, she watched the sunrise over the Avery River, feeling a mix of insignificance and power as she gazed at the city waking up. She knew she had control of her future, with the gold chest securing her independence. As she watched the capital from her new home, she felt a connection with the city, as if they were observing each other and knew that her destiny was intertwined with Rifthold's. Chapter 6. Selena intended to thank Sam for the sheet music, but decided not to do so in the training room, where other assassins might misinterpret her gesture. Besides, her head throbbed from lack of sleep and the excess of wine from the previous night, making it difficult to think clearly. She chose to focus on her training, surprising her instructor with the new techniques she had learned in the Red Desert. As Selena practiced, she felt Sam's eyes on her, and though she tried to ignore it, she couldn't help but notice his skill and the sheen of sweat on his torso. The instructor, visibly uncomfortable, called her "my lady," and Selena looked at him sternly, warning him not to make any comments. Sam approached, causing the instructor to discreetly withdraw. Though Selena tried to maintain her composure, her muscles trembled from the strenuous training and lack of sleep. Their conversation revolved around a mission they were planning to infiltrate Donival's house that night. Sam expressed concern about the danger of the task, but Selena, confident in her abilities, insisted she could handle it alone. As they left the training room, Sam followed her, insisting on accompanying her on the mission later, but Selena preferred to do it on her own. Upon reaching the keep's main entrance, they encountered Lysandra and Madame Clarice, who were visiting. Lysandra, with a flirtatious attitude, invited Sam to join them for tea, which annoyed Selena. Despite the evident tension, Sam tried to invite Selena to lunch, but she declined, arguing that she had work to do. At dusk, Selena stealthily approached Donival's house. The rain, though bothersome, provided the perfect cover to avoid detection. Dressed in a new black suit, adapted with knives integrated into the gauntlets and boots, she prepared to scale the house's wall. Despite the risk, she knew she had 2 days to gather the necessary information about Donival's documents. With skill, she managed to open a window on the second floor and slipped into the study, where darkness reigned. But just when she thought she was safe, she sensed an imminent attack. Chapter 7. Selena, in a swift reaction, dodged the attack and faced the guards with the agility and skill she had learned in the Red Desert. In the blink of an eye, she had a knife in her hand and plunged it into the thigh of one of the guards, while another staggered after receiving a kick to the abdomen and a blow to the head. Though she disposed of the first opponents, a sharp blow struck her from behind, leaving her unconscious. When she regained consciousness, she was tied to a chair in a dark, damp place, with water rising up to her calves. The stench of the place confirmed she was in a sewer. Around her, she heard the guards' taunts and the deep voice of Donival's bodyguard, who watched her with a mocking smile. Though they beat her to make her talk, Selena remained calm and revealed no information. She was tightly bound, but she didn't stop analyzing the situation, looking for an opportunity to free herself. The bodyguard, Philip, explained that they had no intention of interrogating her. They knew she wouldn't survive the flood that would soon be unleashed in the sewers. The current was already starting to rise, and as the guards left her to die, Selena began desperately struggling against the ropes binding her. She remembered the knives hidden in her suit, finally managing to free one to cut the bindings. Though the pain in her hands was intense, she managed to free herself and hurried to find an exit before the current swept her away. The situation was desperate. The water was rising rapidly, and though she found a ladder leading to a street grate, it was firmly shut. She pounded and pushed with all her strength, but the grate wouldn't budge. Desperate, she began shouting for help. Just as the water reached her chest, she heard Sam's voice calling to her from above. With renewed hope, they both tried to force the grate, but their efforts were in vain. The water kept rising, and Selena knew time was running out. In a final attempt to save herself, Sam tried to use a dagger as a lever, but the tool broke and the water reached Selena's neck. Despite Sam's desperation, who pleaded for a miracle, she realized she was about to die. With one last breath, she asked Sam to take her body home, to Terrasen. The water completely covered her, leaving her submerged in darkness. Chapter 8. Desperate shouts and pounding on her chest awakened Selena from the darkness. Her body reacted violently, expelling the water that had filled her lungs. She vomited repeatedly, while Sam, with a mix of relief and exhaustion, remained by her side, nearly collapsing from the effort. Two women, one holding a crowbar, watched the scene, still shocked by the intensity of the events they had just witnessed. Back at the keep, Selena immersed herself in a frantic cleaning routine. She bathed several times, trying to erase the feeling of filth that tormented her. She even submerged herself in a bathtub filled with liquor, seeking to disinfect every inch of her wounded body. Though Arobynn, concerned about her state, tried to talk to her, Selena ordered him to leave. She didn't want to see anyone or hear anyone. She just wanted to purge every trace of that hellish experience. Past midnight, Sam entered her room without waiting for an invitation. His gaze reflected concern and fatigue, but also determination. She looked at him resentfully, struggling with the humiliation of having needed to be rescued. Though she knew she should be grateful, her pride made her feel anger toward him. Despite her conflicting feelings, Sam just wanted to make sure she was okay. He had searched everywhere after hearing her screams, and it was thanks to his perseverance that he managed to pull her out of the sewer. Selena, still disturbed, couldn't help but confront him harshly. However, Sam responded with a warm smile, showing that he didn't expect an apology from her. Faced with this, she finally thanked him for saving her life, but then confessed something deeper, her regret for involving him in the events of Skulls Bay and for what Arobynn had done to him as a result. The conversation shifted in tone when Selena decided to open up further and told Sam about Ansel, her friend, and the betrayal she had suffered at her hands. As she recounted her story, sadness and nostalgia took over her. Sam, listening attentively and empathetically, began to understand the pain Selena carried with her. The scar on her neck, the result of her confrontation with Ansel, was a constant reminder of that experience. When she finished talking, the atmosphere between them became intimate and charged with emotions. Sam, trying to comfort her, gently caressed the scar on her neck, wishing he could erase the pain it represented. Though the situation became somewhat awkward due to the physical and emotional closeness, Sam respected her space, withdrawing his hand and changing the subject to something more practical, the mission they had at hand. Selena, with a sly smile, revealed to Sam that the situation had become more complicated since she had added another name to her kill list. Philip, the bodyguard who tried to drown her, had sealed his fate. She didn't know who he had tried to eliminate, but Selena was determined to make him pay for what he had done. It wasn't possible to try to kill Adarlan's assassin and get away with it. Chapter 9. Selena woke up at noon and, after fulfilling her promise to bathe 2 more times, headed to Arobynn's study. Upon opening the door, she found him drinking tea, who greeted her with a joke about her time in the bathtub. Remembering the lessons learned during her stay in the Red Desert and the reasons she had longed to return home, Selena realized she was no longer afraid to confront Arobynn. With a calculated smile, she ordered the servants to bring several heavy chests to the study. When they opened them, the gold gleamed under the midday light. Arobynn, with his usual calm, asked if she dared to explain the source of the money. Selena, savoring the moment, informed him that with that gold, she was paying off her debt, emphasizing that she was no longer his. Though Arobynn maintained a calm facade, his eyes reflected a mix of sadness and acceptance. Upon hearing his response, Selena felt a deep relief, though she still couldn't tell him she planned to move out soon. Arobynn congratulated her newfound freedom with an enigmatic tone, leaving Selena feeling that although she had managed to pay off her debt, the weight of her relationship with Arobynn remained a complex burden. Later, despite her repulsion, Selena returned to the sewers where she had almost lost her life. Sam accompanied her in silence as they inspected the area. With a torch in hand, she examined the iron door they planned to use to infiltrate Donivel's house. Though Sam tried to joke about how difficult it would be to get in, they both knew the mission required careful planning. They decided that the best option was to watch the door, waiting for the moment when the servants threw out the trash, which would give them an opportunity to infiltrate. As they returned through the tunnels, Sam broke the silence by revealing that he knew Selena had paid off her debt to Arobynn. When he asked her how she felt, Selena admitted it wasn't what she had imagined. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Sam confessed that he planned to leave for good, moving to Banjali, a distant city in the south. Surprised and distressed, Selena tried to understand his reasons. Sam explained that he couldn't stay in Rifthold after everything Arobynn had done to them, especially after enduring a summer of humiliations at Arobynn's hands, who had forced him to accompany Lysandra and Clarice around the city, while he waited desperately for Selena to return. When Sam confessed that the main reason he had to leave was his love for her, Selena was stunned. Sam had loved her for years, and his greatest fear was that she would choose Arobynn over him. The intensity of his declaration left Selena breathless. Finally, understanding the depth of Sam's feelings and how much he had endured for her, Selena grabbed him by the tunic and, with a mix of anger and tenderness, confessed that she would choose him. Then, without further words, she kissed him. Chapter 10. Selena had never kissed anyone, but when her lips met Sam's, something changed inside her. She felt a warmth and softness that completely enveloped her as he held her firmly against his body. The intensity of the moment was so overwhelming that she thought she might die from the electricity coursing through her body. Every touch, every movement from Sam made her want more, despite being in such an inappropriate place as the sewer tunnels. The outside world faded away, and neither Dunval, nor Philip, nor even Arobynn mattered at that moment. Sam's lips slid down her neck, making every coherent thought disappear. At that moment, only Sam existed, and the burning desire they felt for each other. When they finally emerged from the sewers, it was night. With disheveled hair and swollen lips, they walked back to the keep, where Selena ordered dinner to be brought to her room. Though they spent the rest of the night together, they never undressed. Too many things had changed in their lives that day, and they weren't ready for another big step. Selena stayed awake long after Sam left, reflecting on what had happened. He loved her and had done so for years, enduring so much for her despite how she had treated him. Though she hadn't felt the same way about him before, something had changed since her return from Skulls Bay. She couldn't stop thinking about Sam, and that concern was mixed with the imminent mission at Donival's house. The next day, after lunch, Selena and Sam were hidden in the shadows, waiting by the basement door that led to the sewer tunnel. Sam, dressed in black, was almost invisible in the darkness. Though they had spent an hour waiting, Selena was tense, knowing that any mistake could ruin the mission. Finally, they heard a servant approaching to throw out the trash, giving them the opportunity to infiltrate the house. With precise and silent movements, Selena slipped behind the servant, unnoticed until she reached the basement. The place was full of wine barrels and shelves with products from all over Aurelia. After making sure the servant wouldn't return, she opened the tunnel doors so that Sam could enter later when they were ready to start the fire they would use as a distraction. At 7, before Sam arrived with the torches, Selena left the basement and began to move toward Donival's study. Though the place was surprisingly empty, she managed to pick the study door's lock and enter. Cautiously, she began searching for the documents, closing the curtains and lighting a lamp to illuminate the room. She searched the desk but found nothing relevant until she noticed a hollow sound under the floor. Carefully, she lifted a floorboard and found what she was looking for: maps, lists, and locations of people opposing the slave trade. These documents not only contained names but also revealed escape routes and safe houses for slaves, endangering many people. Dunval planned to use this information to blackmail those who opposed slavery, handing them over to the king if they didn't cooperate. Selena knew she couldn't let this happen. Just as she was about to hide the documents again, she heard voices approaching. Chapter 11. Selena extinguished the lamp and, in a quick move, opened the curtains to allow the faint outside light to enter. She cursed herself for the critical situation she was in, but there was no time for regrets. She stored the documents in her suit and slipped into the wardrobe, leaving the door slightly ajar to observe what was happening in the room. The lock on the door turned, and Dunval entered accompanied by a hooded man. Though the conversation between them seemed trivial, with Dunval talking about his interest in a young woman at the theater and the hooded man responding coldly, Selena couldn't afford to miss a single detail. Donival's nervousness became evident as he began to talk more than necessary, trying to hide his anxiety with unnecessary words. Finally, Dunval knelt and lifted the floorboard, only to discover the documents were gone. It was at that precise moment that Selena acted. She emerged from the wardrobe with deadly speed, and before Dunval could even react, her sword had already found its mark, cleanly taking his life. Blood spurted out, soaking Selena's sword. The other man, surprised, screamed and ran. Selena barely had time to react when an explosion shook the house, causing her to lose her balance. Sam had started the fire in the basement, and the smoke was already beginning to rise up the stairs. Without wasting a second, Selena chased after the man but was intercepted by Philip, Donival's bodyguard. Philip, filled with rage, attacked her furiously, but Selena, with lethal calm, blocked his blows and countered with precision. The fight was intense but brief. With a precise movement, Selena's sword pierced Philip's body, who, as he fell, whispered that she knew nothing, hinting that there was more behind the mission than Selena understood. But those last words didn't stop Selena. She knew she had done what needed to be done. With Philip dead, Selena continued her pursuit. She ran through the streets, guided by the flames beginning to consume Donival's house. She finally caught up with the man in a dead-end alley, where, in a final act of desperation, he lit a match and set fire to the documents he was carrying. Before Selena could reach him, the man drank a vial he carried and fell dead, his features hardened by rage, even in death. Selena extinguished the flames on the documents, but only managed to save a few fragments. Under the moonlight, she read what was left: the names and locations of safe houses, not only in Melisande but also in Adarlan and Terrasen. The information was crucial, but now it was destroyed. Philip's last words echoed in her mind. "You know nothing." Something didn't add up, but there was no time to reflect further. She gathered the burned fragments and let them turn to ashes, ensuring no trace of the information remained. Returning to the street, she found Sam, injured but alive, leaning against a wall in a nearby alley. Though Sam had been shot, the arrow hadn't penetrated his suit, protected by the spider silk he wore. Selena, relieved that he was safe, smiled seriously as she removed her mask. After confirming that the mission had been a success, Selena approached Sam and kissed him briefly, sealing their victory with a gesture of affection. "It's done," she whispered against his lips. Chapter 12. The storm clouds had cleared, and the sun was setting on the horizon as Selena entered Arobynn's study, stopping in front of his desk. Wesley, Arobynn's bodyguard, made no attempt to stop her, simply closing the doors behind her before returning to his post in the hallway. Selena, wasting no time, informed Arobynn that Donival's partner had burned the documents before poisoning himself. Though she had slipped Donival's documents under his bedroom door the previous night, she decided to wait until morning to tell him the details. Arobynn looked at her with an impassive face, asking indifferently if this had happened before or after she had set fire to Donival's house. His tone was sharp, and his next comment made it clear that he was not satisfied. Though she defended herself, claiming she had ensured Dunval died in the fire, Arobynn responded that without an identifiable body, they couldn't be sure of anything. Selena, angry at the insinuation, assured him that Dunval was dead. But Arobynn wasn't intimidated. He coldly informed her that she would receive no payment for the mission since she hadn't delivered a body or the complete documents. Selena tried to stand firm, but the knot in her throat betrayed her growing unease. Arobynn, without stopping looking at her with a mix of disappointment and superiority, revealed that there had been no real trade agreement between Dunval and his informant in Rifthold. The real negotiation had taken place at the Glass Castle between the king and Lafer Bardingale. Dunval, despite his flaws, had been working to establish a network of safe houses in opposition to slavery, and now those efforts had been thwarted by Selena, who had handed the documents over to Bardingale, a woman without scruples, willing to use them for her own benefit. The revelation hit Selena like a bucket of cold water. Arobynn, enjoying his victory, explained that Bardingale planned to use the information to blackmail those mentioned in the documents, and if they didn't cooperate, those same documents could reach the king. When Selena, in an effort to understand, suggested that all this was a punishment for what had happened in Skulls Bay, Arobynn confirmed that though he regretted hitting her, she had ruined a lucrative business. This was not just a punishment. It was a warning that though she considered herself free from him, she should never forget who he was or what he was capable of. Selena, struggling to maintain her composure, told him she had sold Cassida, her beloved Asterian horse, to pay Sam's debt, meaning he was now free too. But Arobynn's response was as devastating as the previous revelation. He had spent all the money on Lysandra's initiation auction. Selena was stunned. Arobynn had used the money for which she had sacrificed so much to win the auction of a person he knew she despised, just to humiliate her. The betrayal hurt, but this time, it didn't destroy her as he expected. With a mix of bitterness and resignation, Selena informed him she would move out that same day, and though Arobynn tried to provoke her, she left, determined not to fall into his games again. As she left the study, Selena almost bumped into 3 tall men entering, ignoring them as she passed Wesley, the bodyguard. She headed for the exit but stopped when Lysandra, leaning against the stairway railing, made a mocking comment about her record price at the auction. The provocation was too much. Without thinking, Selena threw a dagger that lodged in the railing, a hair's breadth from Lysandra's head. Leaving the young woman screaming, Selena walked out of the keep, determined to leave that chapter of her life behind. Hours later, she was on the rooftop of her new apartment, watching Lafer Bardingale leave the city on her horse, Cassida, with a triumphant smile. Despite the desire for revenge, Selena decided not to act. She had lost, but she no longer wanted to be part of that web of deceit and betrayal. She spent the rest of the day overseeing the move of her belongings to the new apartment. As the sun set, painting the city in gold and crimson, Sam found her on the rooftop. With a mix of sadness and relief, Sam expressed his regret for what Arobynn had done to her, but also celebrated Selena's decision to move. Finally, he confessed that he had left his things in her master bedroom, a gesture she accepted with a slight smile. Sam, gently, took her by the waist and confessed his love, vowing he never wanted to be separated from her, no matter where she was. Selena, moved, kissed him in response, sealing a new beginning for both of them as the sun sank below the horizon, enveloping the city in shadows and crimson light. Thank you for joining us on this journey through The Assassin and the Underworld. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to subscribe for more literary content like this. Give it a like and share the video with your friends who love fantasy. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you found yourself trapped in a mission as dangerous as Selena's? What part of the summary intrigued you the most? See you on the next literary journey.